Welcome to McChats here on McGTV, youtube.com/MikeMcGTV. Follow me on Twitter at MikeMcGTV. And again, it's me, Mike McG, doing another solo podcast this time around. I want to talk about something that came up over the past week in terms of media and in terms of advertising and how that can go horribly, horribly awry for certain brands. And then get into a little fun new segment I'm going to try out on some of my fellow podcasters and guests whenever I have them on. But first of all, I wanted to talk about, everyone who discusses media or advertising in some way, shape, or form has pretty much already discussed ad nauseum what's wrong with Pepsi's latest commercial involving Kendall Jenner, a protest of some kind of struggle. They don't get into detail exactly what the struggle is, but you can tell that the protesters are very diverse from various walks of life with various ethnicities and genders and orientations involved in the organization of that protest, and how Pepsi can bring us all together. All right. To tackle this properly, when I first heard the news, I was driving home from work and was listening to some NPR, and it came up as one of the news stories about this Pepsi misfire, essentially, with regards to the advertising. And they kind of discussed it, and they played like audio samples of the song, "We are the lions, we are the chosen," which my heart goes out more so to the songwriter and performer than anyone else involved in this commercial, because they probably went in writing that song, creating that particular song with the best of intentions. Like, they genuinely invest in their message, perhaps, and they really want to get it across through that song. And they just had the bad luck of Pepsi choosing their song for this particular commercial. I'm sure they got compensated very well financially for it. Hopefully. I'd like to think that. The songwriter in me and the musician in me would like to think that our efforts to support other media or other forms of entertainment get proper compensation. So I hope they got some kind of good monetary, a substantial monetary amount to support them and hopefully weather them through getting hired by another agency or another brand for probably a more on the ball product. So anyways, yeah, the person I sympathize with the most is the songwriter in this whole thing, and not the musician they show in the commercial, because that's clearly just an actor of some sort of Asian descent. I'm leaning towards Filipino. I have kind of a good sense, a good radar for fellow Filipinos of varying pedigrees and varying amounts of Filipino in their lineage. So I'd like to think that that guy is Filipino. If someone knows for sure, let me know. But yeah, starting off with this commercial, Kendall Jenner's there in her blonde wig and shiny dress. There's a protest walking down the street in the background. This dude is on his balcony after playing some righteous cello and fraying up his bow like no one's business. Drinking his Pepsi, watching the protest as well. And that's when the inspiration kicks in. I'm going to join this protest with my cello on my back. And so he joins the protest. You see a couple of ladies, and you can tell that they're ladies of this time and place because one of them has blue hair dye. Everything blue in this commercial, you'll notice. And they're sharing escargot or something and drinking bottles of Pepsi while the protesters are still marching down the street. And they get in on the action. Kendall Jenner is still there for her photo shoot, not really engaging so much with that activity until Asian man, who I'm guessing is Filipino, has a certain mystique about him, gives a certain look to Kendall Jenner, as if, come on, baby, join the revolution. Oh no, not the revolution, sorry. Signs are clearly saying, join the conversation. Never told exactly what the conversation is, just that there is a conversation, and it's got a blue hue to it. very much like the blue hue of Pepsi. Anyways, Kendall Jenner couldn't be bothered at first, but because this sexy, mysterious Asian man is nodding to her suggestively, saying, "Come on, you know you want to," she jumps right in there, rips off her blonde wig, gets out of that dress, gets into some blue denim. That's the genuine Kendall Jenner, and then proceeds to join the march. And they are suddenly stopped by a police line, and I buy that the police would be in blue this time around. I don't feel that's a Pepsi. It might have been, actually. That might have been a creative decision. Should we have the cops in full riot gear? Nah, too black. Let's go with a nice, traditional cop uniform. That's like our kind of shade of blue. So they have the police line there. These protesters came prepared because they have coolers full of Pepsi products at the ready. Kendall Jenner sways through the crowd, weaves through the protesters, picks herself up a nice tall can of Pepsi, gives like a wink to the Asian dude again, saying, "Don't worry, I got this." Saunters on up to Oscar Isaac. It looks like Oscar Isaac, this police officer, and hands him a Coke. Oh, I'm sorry, not Coke. Pepsi. How shameful of me. I bring disgrace to the Pepsi name. Hands him this Pepsi, opens up the can, takes a refreshing swig. Rejoice, celebration. The protesters are celebrating back and forth. You'd think the machines let Zion go. They're celebrating so bad, so hard. Nothing but festivities here because one cop decided not to be a total hard ass and actually gave a refreshing after someone handed him a beverage. Way to go, Pepsi. Bravo. That's the equivalent of the hippie putting the flower in the gun barrel right there. I'm sure that's what they were thinking. It's like, what could the modern equivalent of that moment be? Or the protester standing in front of the tank in Tiananmen Square. What image can we do? Kendall Jenner, one of the privileged, handing a cop a Pepsi. Meanwhile, Oscar Isaac has said some line of dialogue to his fellow officer. I'm assuming it's like, okay, maybe we don't have to tear gas them or something. I don't know. But yeah, I finally got to see the full 2 minutes and some change commercial. It is very, very tone deaf, to say the least. And I can understand why both very liberal folks and very conservative folks and everyone who falls in between, this is the one thing everyone decided to gather around and rally around and agree on, is that, wow, this is a pretty shitty Pepsi commercial. I can see how, the uber conservative or uber kind of, I don't want to say alt-right, but like the uber, in that direction, what they would take offense by. It's like, oh, they're trying to propagate the idea that these protests that are taking place right now are positive or anything like that. I can definitely see it from that point. I can see it from the liberal standpoint too, or the very uber left standpoint, where they're saying this is trivializing our message. This is trivializing what we're trying to do. And the comparisons to Black Lives Matter and all those other organizations and protests that have risen up in the past couple of years in response to our societal turmoil. I can definitely understand both sides of it. I'm not agreeing one way or the other with either side. I could just see where both sides would be pissed off about this particular bit of frivolous branding. Yeah, it's definitely missed the mark with regards to what it was trying to convey. I get the gist of it, and it's something that's been done before, not just with Pepsi, but with other brands, that they want to really hammer home the sense of global community and feel as though they're a part of that global community, when honestly, they're more of the deterrent to global communities at times. Not to put too fine a point on it, but this type of advertising has been done before, to this extent, very tone deaf, but also it's been very subtle before in the past. And I just can't imagine an advertising executive, what made them think that this wouldn't go over like gangbusters. In this day and age, with this very politically charged climate, did you really think that this commercial was going to go by unnoticed by either side, it's really kind of a query, and it's a curiosity. The more I've kind of read articles about it, the more I've seen people respond to the video. I just watched H3H3's response to the video. I'll post it in the link. It's very funny. I like what Ethan and Hila do on their site, where they do have actual critique going on amidst their zany kind of grotesque comedy and dark comedy that takes place. But I mean, yeah, this has been done before. Now, advertisers, I feel, have been more subtle in the past. And I don't know if that's Pepsi kind of thinking, like, we got to be really direct with what we're talking about, what we're calling out, essentially, in this commercial. Like, let's just bring it right to the forefront here. It made me think about a lot of the pre-movie screening stuff I watch whenever I go see a movie. I do typically arrive about 15 minutes before the movie begins, and that's when they've got Maria Menounos, saying her whole AMC first look, check this out. And you have all those commercials taking place, and you've seen them before. Some of them are really schmaltzy, some of them are very saccharine, but at least there's kind of a deft hand or a good balance being put to use in those commercials. A couple that come to mind for me right out of the gate. They did one with, what was it, Microsoft back during the holidays. And granted, it wasn't for anything big politically or anything big with regards to, societal upheaval. It was basically talking about the rivalry between Microsoft and Apple. And so they had the Microsoft employees go to the front of an Apple store and sing Christmas carols and offer them, Christmas gifts or something. Like, there was an exchange going on, and all the Apple employees like hugged and shook hands with the Microsoft employees. Now, that's a type of advertisement I felt really works. It hits an emotional thing. They have the Christmas music going on, and the people are singing, and they're being genuine, and you have this tender moment between the two companies, as it were. And it hits upon the idea of unity, of coming together, no matter where you stand, without having to really bang you over the head saying, this is what you have to do, world. It's about two rival companies setting aside the rivalry for Christmas. I get that. I get the gist of that. It's simple and maybe kind of stupid, but you know what? It's not insulting, at least, to a certain cause or a certain message. It's a very tame message that they're able to get across. I like commercials where the actual brand or the actual product isn't at the forefront. It isn't the MacGuffin. For example, I've seen this plenty of times. Speaking of a soda company, Coca-Cola for a while did those, during the summer, they did those teenagers go to the amusement park, fall in love for the first time, go on roller coaster rides together, and end up like holding hands and kissing by the end of the night. And it's just good times all around to be young and vivacious and just enjoy those moments. And all there is a bottle of Coca-Cola in the background. It's what they're drinking, essentially. It's not what's bringing them together. It's not implied. I mean, it's kind of implied that, Coca-Cola had something to do with the evening going so well, because it is a very refreshing beverage, I guess. But the idea that it's just there. Like, it's akin to product placement that can be kind of annoying, but it's for that product, so I'm not, distracted by it like I was, say, Power Rangers Krispy Kreme or Man of Steel 7-Eleven, because 7-Eleven and Krispy Kreme aren't the products I want to focus on at that time. In the movie itself, I want to focus on Power Rangers and Superman. But anyways, I'm detracting from my original conversation point here, which is Coca-Cola did the idea of coming together and addressing love and addressing good times with your fellow man in a subtler way than Pepsi. Now, granted, Pepsi, out of a lot of the companies that have had bad ideas, Pepsi's had a slew of bad ideas in the past couple of decades. Pepsi Points, for example, almost killing Michael Jackson. I mean, pretty much leading up to Michael Jackson having health issues. Thanks for that, Pepsi. Being one of the inferior sodas out there, I'll take Diet Coke over Pepsi any day of the week. Pepsi, there's a wrong taste to Pepsi, I feel. But that's just me. But yeah, I'd say for a brand that's really kind of, I don't want to say it's struggling to stay relevant. It doesn't need to struggle to stay relevant. It doesn't need to pull shit like this to stay relevant. It's there. People are still consuming it. I doubt Pepsi as a brand is in financial straits or is in dire need of needing this, but I guess it's working because, look, they're getting a lot of attention. Not necessarily good attention, but I guess any press is good press. I don't know. It's been kind of a really curious thing I've noticed in the past couple of days as I've actually watched the commercial and listened to people discuss it, is you have to wonder if this was the intent, to get both sides of the argument, to get all people from various degrees of societal and political investment up in arms about the way they're portraying this particular subject. Because honestly, if we weren't in such a politically charged time, this would kind of come off as just limp-wristed and weak sauce. Like if this was placed in another time period where we weren't demonstrating against stuff on a day-to-day basis, it feels, if there weren't actual big earth-shattering, life-changing things taking place that we had a legitimate reason to rise up against or to express our disapproval for, this would have just gone by the wayside as a really weak Super Bowl commercial. Like, if this had occurred, I'd want to say before something like Occupy Wall Street took place. Because I actually, well, I wouldn't say hands-on actively participated in Occupy Wall Street. I walked with the groups. I was curious. I want to know I want to hear from people what they were upset about. I wanted to get different perspectives. And I couldn't just do that. I felt, since I was in New York City at the time, I couldn't just do that by just sitting on the sidelines and just hearing via whatever news was coming my way from the stations or from the channels. I felt I had to take advantage of that situation and actually get into some of the movements, get into some of the marches. And I agreed on several points with certain individuals. There were times I didn't agree. There were times where I felt like, wow, this is getting a little too out of control or a little too militant. And then there were times where I'm like, no, this feels right. It feels good to be amongst this community and to be very kind of passionate about this treatment or mistreatment we're experiencing. And so, if for anyone who's ever taken part in a demonstration or in a protest of some kind, you know that it can get very ugly very fast. Thankfully, stuff like the Million Women's March that took place just a couple of months ago, that went off without a hitch. Great. I'm glad. I hope we have more demonstrations like that don't, delve into the ugliness of humanity. But I have been witness, sometimes up close and personal, to when these protests, when these demonstrations, whether it's from the actual demonstrators or whether it's from the police or whoever is kind of trying to contain the situation, it can go horribly, horribly awry. And to have a brand like Pepsi kind of trivialize the modern context of a protest with this very kind of bright, peppy, even though these people are marching for something, they don't seem that mad about it. They don't seem that fired up. They're kind of happy. Like protesting is a trend, which it really shouldn't be. I know there are people out there who might take advantage of the situation to just be part of something like that, to be part of a quote unquote trend. But it really shouldn't be. You should demonstrate when you feel strongly for something and when you feel you can be organized and be succinct and direct and safe with your message, above all else. But to have Pepsi kind of represent it now as something that, like, isn't this just a blast that we're doing this? Be part of the conversation. Japanese and Chinese kanji symbols, which I don't know, I might have to look up those symbols to see if they actually mean something pertaining to the actual march. Maybe there's a hidden message there. Maybe the Chinese kanji or something like that actually is stating what the protesters are marching for in the commercial. I don't know. Let's run those through Google Translate maybe or something. I don't know how that works, honestly. Anyways, it is interesting. And yes, I agree. It is very, very bad timing on the company's part to put out something like this. Bad execution. Very kind of callous and careless execution of if they had some kind of legitimate message they want to get across. And like I said, I feel bad more so just for the creative forces involved in it, who were just hired to do a job. Now, I haven't read much on Kendall Jenner's response. I've heard she is kind of very upset that the commercial isn't going over well. I don't know whether it's upset because she's like, people got to stop being mean to me, or whether it's more like, wow, I'm really embarrassed I was a part of this. I apologize, everybody. Like, I'm not sure which side of it she's landing on. I don't care about the Jenners or Kardashians or whoever, honestly. She just happened to be the celebrity name attached to this. I personally hope that it's more along the lines of, wow, yeah, this isn't cool at all. I apologize, everybody. And that it's left at that. I don't think it's right to be, bashing her so much unless she was really one of the people like pushing for this idea. I don't know. If she wasn't, if she was just the hired talent, and it's like, you know what, we just need you to be in front of the camera for this. I really can't lay blame with her. Sometimes when you're in the thick of a shoot, you're not given the full picture, the full scope of what the actual finished product is going to be. So, I don't know, maybe she was really embarrassed upon seeing what it was like at the end, fully with that. Even though she's the one who hands Oscar Isaac, he's not Oscar Isaac, I should stop saying that. But even though she hands this Oscar Isaac looking dude a Pepsi, like, she had to know that was the big dramatic moment in the commercial. And there had to have been, I don't know, maybe I'm giving Kendall Jenner a little bit too much of a pass in thinking that there had to be some rational mind in there somewhere saying, this doesn't seem quite right. Maybe not, though, I don't know. But again, I do feel bad for a majority of the talent involved, especially the person whose music was retooled and repurposed for the sake of this commercial. As a musician, I sympathize heavily with that. It definitely is a misfire. And yeah, if anything, this should just be kind of a warning sign to brands that, stay tame. Stay superfluous. Stay in the background. Because that's what products and branding are, or should be at least. Don't try to get heavy-handed in this day and age with some kind of feeling like you're going to be able to present yourself as being the ally of some agenda or some message. Because you're not, you're corporations. You're not sophisticated enough to be able to deliver that message of solidarity or a message of defiance well. Now, on the flip side of that, are there artists? Are there performers? Are there creative people out there who, fail at that as well? Of course, certainly. But I feel there's a certain way to brand and still hit upon some universal themes. Again, the idea of just having something as simple as, celebrate brotherhood, celebrate friendship and love of all races and creeds and nations. Celebrate that just fine. But don't try to parallel it too close to what's going on right now. Let's face it. I wouldn't be surprised if they had another commercial in the barrel ready to go, being like, what the Syrians and the U.S. could do with right now? A nice, tall, cool bottle of Pepsi to wash down those bad feelings. I'm just saying, I'm just saying there could have been a very propaganda-y, like two soldiers meet in the desert. One from a very, shall we say, Middle Eastern or some kind of lineage of that nature. Another one, very what we kind of line up with the idea of the all-American soldier. Meet in the desert, and then all of a sudden, instead of combating each other or facing each other down their gun sights, they put down the guns and walk towards a cooler full of delicious Pepsi. And they share a brief smile and nod to each other as they crack open their individual bottles. The end scene. Pepsi will bring us all together, people. All right. Leave me your thoughts as to, what was your kind of response to watching this commercial fiasco take place? Does it not really bother you? Honestly, in the grand scheme of things, it's a curiosity for me. I can understand why people would be offended either way. For me personally, it's just another example of how out of touch certain companies or certain brand names are. And I'm honestly not shocked. I guess I'm shocked to the degree they were willing to draw parallels, but not like angry. I'm just like, oh, Pepsi, you knuckleheads. You almost killed Michael Jackson and set him on the path to painkillers. You promised someone a Harrier jet and didn't deliver. This is just another one in your long line of bloopers. Way to go. I'm always going to be a Diet Coke Dr. Pepper dude. Yeah, that's right. I drink Dr. Peppers on occasion still. Well, just let me know. Were you offended? Were you not offended? Are you going to be switching over to Sunny D or, I don't know, Crush from now on? I'm not sure. Does Pepsi own any of those other subsidiaries? Anyways, moving on to the next thing I want to share on this really brief kind of McChats here. I want to try out a new segment, and it's a segment I might try live with other guests on McChats, or it might be a pre-recorded segment that I pull from stuff like, for example, this one is from the most recent chat cave I did with Max. I just asked him to kind of test run this for me, but I might still call upon him as a guest for this particular segment. It's a little segment that was inspired recently by Red Letter Media. I love what they do there with Half in the Bag and their parodies of other channels such as Collider, or a little bit to an extent like essentially calling out geek channels, kind of like my channel or like Three Geeks. But I like what they do with their parody, at least. I'll put the links for some episodes of what they do down below, but I really enjoy their parody of like nerd podcasts. And the particular video that inspired me to do this segment had to deal with something, a parody of like a clickbait video where Mike and Rich sit down together to discuss 10 things you didn't know about Darth Vader's suit. And it was done kind of before Rogue One came out, I feel. And, it's meant to kind of be like, the ending to this explained, or that character in that movie's role explained, or 10 things you didn't know about Boba Fett, or, very kind of spammy type of videos that give you very slim information and more just on getting you hooked into watching the video because we mentioned something Star Wars in it. Kind of what I'm doing now, except I hope to do what they're doing with a little bit of a comedic edge to it. This segment I'd like to call Tales from Wookieepedia. And what this is that essentially I share a brief segment from Wookieepedia because Wookieepedia goes really in depth into the smallest details on the smallest supporting MacGuffins or characters in the background of any Star Wars product. And they have full, like, college thesis-sized articles on that one little droid on wheels that goes around the Death Star. Like, there's a good probably 5 or 10 pages dedicated to the origins, design, and legacy of that little droid. And so I want to test this out. What I'm going to do on occasion is find a random entry in Wookieepedia and read it to one of my fellow podcasters or fellow guests. just kind of have them naturally react off of what I'm saying, because it can get pretty ridiculous. So here is the first entry in Tales from Wookieepedia with Max Andrews. Enjoy. So Max, the basic premise here is Tales from Wookieepedia, and I'm going to read to you a little segment from Wookieepedia on... You ready for this?
Yes, I'm so ready.
All right. Today's selection from Wookieepedia is entitled Evar Orbis and His Galactic Jizz Whalers.
Okay.
All right. So I'll put the link to the article below because, believe me, there's several annotations and other links too.
That's like top 3 least things I expected to hear
related to Star Wars.
Yeah, that's can you give me that title one more time, please?
Evar or Evar, it's EVAR, so I'm going to say Evar, let's say. Yeah. Evar Orbis and His Galactic Jizz Whalers. And Jizz Whalers is spelled JIZZ hyphen WAILERS.
So they wail like and
well, we'll get into it. But first, a little general information before the actual segment here.
All right.
General information. The genre of music is called jizz. The founder is Evar Orbis. The leader of the group is Evar Orbis. Group members include Max Rebo, Snit, and Cy Snoodles. And one of their most infamous songs, apparently, is entitled That Joyous Night, a.k.a. I Ate My Mate.
Okay. Now, Max, if Max Rebo is involved, it's legit.
Yeah, he's the blue elephant.
Yeah, it's solid. I'm down for the Jizz Whalers, man. Jizz, is that the kind of music they're playing in the Star Wars Cantina?
We'll get to that.
Oh, yeah. We're not there. I'm jumping ahead.
No,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, no, I like to hear the name Max Rebo. I don't know who Evar Opus is, but you know that Max Rebo likes to get down.
All right. Well, let's get into it, shall we?
Let's do it.
Evar Orbis and His Galactic Jizz Whalers were a jizz band founded by Evar Orbis. Wow. Featuring Max Rebo, who we've already mentioned, the blue elephant, lovely fellow, yep. Cy Snoodles, Droopy McCool, and Orbis himself. Their hits included That Joyous Night, a.k.a. I Ate My Mate. When playing at Uncle Chesco's on the moon Nar Shaddaa.
Jesus. That's Hut territory.
Oh, okay. Is it really Hut territory?
It is. I think that's like the Hut home planet.
Wow. You know the exact home planet of the Hutts. Jesus.
I'm a bit of a Star Wars nerd.
All right. So while playing at Uncle Chesco's on the moon Nar Shaddaa, the band was surprised to find their set interrupted by the song stylings of the Yism Jizwugnakik Clicker Brickestung Ekternikverzigens. What
the Swedish chef?
I guess. Bork. And like I said, I'll have the article linked down below. That Yism Jizwigik Clicker Bricketikus Enterinicoderus has its own Wikipedia entry. So
oh my goodness.
Just beware, once you start down this rabbit hole, you might not find a way out.
Man, that's ridiculous.
Their set was interrupted by the song stylings of whatever that is. Impressed, Orbis invited him. It's an individual. Impressed, Orbis invited him to join the band, giving him the stage name Joe Yowza. Okay, that's a little bit easier to say.
Yeah, that's a little less in the mouth there.
All right, it concludes here. When Orbis was killed in a firefight with Figrin Dan and the Modal Nodes, The remaining members reformed the group into the Max Rebo Band. And the Max Rebo Band later played one of the Wailers' hits, Jedi Rocks. Now, I remember what that one is. Max Rebo Band played Jedi Rocks in the special edition of Return of the Jedi.
Okay. Yeah. So actually, this is the beginning of Max Rebo.
Yes. The origin of Max Rebo, as it were.
All right. So that makes this very special. I didn't realize. I thought this was like after all the events of the Return of the Jedi and stuff that he got together with the Jizz Wailers, but it's before. So that's even more interesting.
Yeah, it's like before. I guess what could be a contemporary comparison. Contemporary being like something from the 70s, I can remember. It's like the Police, and then Sting went on to do his own thing. Max Rebo is essentially Sting.
Yes.
Yeah, yes. I guess. Now, you mentioned earlier, like, jizz wailing being its own style of music. Fingrin' Dan and the Modal Nodes is the Cantina Band.
Ah.
And I remember
that is that style of music.
Yeah, that group is the group that's doing.
Yeah, so, man, I'm down. I dig that. I got that as one of my ringtones. I could listen to that for hours.
Can you? Can you really?
Yeah, man.
How about the B. Arthur version?
I don't know that I've heard that.
Well, that's in the holiday special. That's the song she's singing. She added lyrics to the.
Oh yes, absolutely. Oh my goodness, I blocked it out of my head because that thing is so freaking terrible. But yes.
Now I'm wondering if she's got her own entry on Wikipedia. I'm sure she does.
Probably. I mean, she was a major component of the lovely, lovely Christmas special, holiday special.
We'll have to save that for another day. But yeah, that is for today's selection of tales from Wookieepedia. That is Ivar Orbis and his galactic jizz wailers. Jesus.
Love that jizz.
Love that jizz.
You think there's a La La Land movie in the Star Wars universe where like he's a jizz man and he just finds this girl and he teaches her jizz?
They should just remake La La Land with the Star Wars slant. Ryan Gosling is a jizz wailer, or just put like the blue trunk on him. He's like, he could play Max Rebo.
Oh my
Stone is a Twi'lek.
Yes, absolutely. Mike, thank you for this.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for being the first run.
Oh my God, this is too good. I did not see that coming at all. Jizz wailers.
There you go.